She learned to be afraid before she learned her own name. Every time a man raised his hand, she cowered. Every time a man's voice got loud, she trembled. Every time a man reached for her, she flinched. Not a little flinch, but a full-body jerk backward, ears flat, tail gone, eyes wide with a memory of pain she knew was coming. She was hit, kicked, starved, locked away. Her name was Luna, but she didn't know that. What she knew was hands. Men's hands, and every single one had hurt her. For the first year of her life, every touch meant pain. Every voice meant fear. Every man meant danger. By the time she was rescued, her body was covered in scars. But the scars you could see weren't the worst ones. The worst ones were inside her brain. The shelter staff tried everything. Gentle voices, treats, slow movements. Nothing worked. Luna would take a treat from a woman's hand. But a man? She'd retreat to her corner, shaking uncontrollably, waiting for the hit she was sure was coming. One volunteer said she was too damaged. Another said she might never trust a man again. They didn't know what was happening inside her head. This video is going to show you. And what you learn might help you understand every dog who's ever been afraid. If your dog flinches when you reach for them, if they cower when hands come near, if they seem afraid of certain people, watch this until the end. Because here's what nobody tells you about dogs who won't let anyone touch them. It's not about the past. It's about their brain. And once you understand what's actually happening inside their head, everything changes. Before we continue, hit that like button. Not for me, for Luna, for every dog waiting for someone to understand them. Subscribe to Canine Lab so you don't miss the rest of her story. Now let me show you what happened inside Luna's brain. When Luna was hurt, her brain did something remarkable. It created a permanent pathway that said, men's hands equals pain. Danger. Run. Scientists call this fear conditioning. Every time a man raised his hand, her brain released stress hormones. Every time a man's voice got loud, new pathways formed. Every time she was hit, those pathways grew stronger. Her brain was building a fortress to protect her. But the fortress became a prison. By the time she was rescued, Luna's brain had one well-worn pathway. Man equals threat. It was the easiest path for her brain to take. The path of fear. Think about what that means. Every time a man reached for her, her brain activated that pathway before she even knew what was happening. Her body reacted first. The flinch, the retreat, the terror. Not because she was choosing to be afraid, because her brain had learned that being afraid kept her alive. This is the same thing that happens in humans with PTSD. The brain rewires itself for survival. But survival mode isn't living. The shelter volunteers didn't understand this. They thought Luna needed more love, more patience, more treats. But what Luna needed was for her brain to learn a new path. A man named David came to the shelter. He'd read about fear conditioning. He knew what was happening inside Luna's head. When he walked toward her kennel, she pressed herself against the wall, trembling. Her eyes locked on his hands. Her body braced for pain. David didn't reach for her. He didn't try to pet her. He didn't even look at her. He sat down on the floor, a few feet away, and did nothing. For days, he sat in the same spot. Same distance. Same stillness. He brought treats, but he didn't offer them. He placed them on the floor and let Luna decide. Her brain was confused. This man wasn't reaching, wasn't yelling, wasn't hitting. Her fear pathway activated, but nothing happened. No pain, no threat, just stillness. Her brain began to do something it hadn't done in a long time. It began to question. Week 1, Luna didn't move. She stayed pressed against the wall, watching David's hands. Her body tense, her eyes never leaving them. But something was changing. Her fear pathway still activated, but the expected pain never came. Her brain was registering something new. A hand that didn't reach. A presence that didn't demand. A man who wasn't a threat. Week 2, Luna began to shift. She still stayed against the wall, but her body was slightly less tense. Her ears were still back, but they weren't flattened anymore. She started taking the treats. Not from David's hand, from a floor. But she was eating. Her brain was beginning to separate the idea of man from the idea of pain. David still didn't reach for her. He let Luna Choose the distance. Let her decide when to come closer. Let her set the pace. Every day he sat in the same spot. Same stillness. Same patience. Week 3. Luna took a treat from David's open palm. Her teeth barely grazed his skin before she retreated. But she took it. Her brain was forming a new pathway. Man's hand equals not pain. Man's hand equals food. Week 4. Luna sat a few inches closer. Her body was still tense, but she wasn't pressed against the wall anymore. Her tail was still low, but it wasn't tucked. Week 6. Luna approached David on her own. Not for food, not for treats. Just closer. Her head lowered slightly. Her eyes soft. She stood there for a moment, then backed away. But she had chosen to come close. Her brain was learning something new. Choice. Control. Safety. Week 8. Luna sat beside David on the floor. Not touching, just near. Her body was relaxed. Her ears were up. Her tail was still. For the first time in her life, she wasn't watching a man's hands. She was just being. David didn't reach for her. He sat still, letting Luna exist in his presence without demands. Then, one night, something happened that neither of them expected. Luna climbed onto the couch. Not to escape, not to hide. She walked across the cushions, turned in a circle, and lay down. Against David's leg. A dog who had been hurt by men. A dog whose brain had been wired to fear every man's touch. She lay down against a man's leg. Her body pressed against David's thigh. Her head rested on his knee. Her eyes were closed. She fell asleep there. Let that sink in. Sleep is when animals are most vulnerable. In the wild, sleep means letting your guard down completely. It means trusting that nothing will hurt you while you're unaware. Luna slept against a man's leg for 3 hours. Her brain had done something remarkable. It had created a new pathway. Men's hands equals pain was still there. It might always be there. But next to it, a new pathway had formed. This man equals safe. This touch equals love. This person equals home. She didn't forget what happened to her. Her brain would always remember. But it had learned something new. Something stronger. Not every man means harm. Not every touch means pain. The next morning, something else happened. David reached for Luna. Slowly, gently, palm up. Luna watched his hand approach. Her body tensed for a moment. Then she lowered her head. She pressed her nose into David's palm. And she held it there. No flinch. No retreat. Just a dog, choosing to be touched by a man's hand. David sat there, his hand still, tears running down his face. He wasn't crying because Luna had finally trusted him. He was crying because he understood. Her brain had just done something that seemed impossible. She chose to trust. Today, Luna is different. She doesn't flinch anymore. She leans. She demands belly rubs. She pushes her head under David's hand when she wants to be petted. She still has moments. Sometimes a man's hand will reach too fast. Sometimes a stranger's voice will startle her. But she recovers quickly now. Her brain has a new pathway to follow. The old pathway is still there. It will always be there. But it's overgrown now. Harder to find. The new path is worn smooth by months of safety. Months of choice. Months of love. Luna's story isn't just about a dog learning to trust men. It's about what happens when we let brains do what they're meant to do. Heal. Every time your dog flinches, they're not being difficult. Their brain is trying to protect them. The question is, are you willing to let them learn at their own pace? If your dog is afraid, here's what Luna taught us. Let them choose. Don't reach. Sit still. Be patient. Let them come to you when they're ready. Let their brain do its work. The pathways will form. The trust will come. Not on your schedule, on theirs. And one day, maybe when you least expect it, they'll choose you. They'll lean against you. They'll fall asleep against your leg. Not because you forced them, because they chose. And that choice, made freely, is the most beautiful thing in the world. Luna still has scars. They'll always be there. But they're not the only things her brain remembers anymore. It also remembers safety. It remembers love. It remembers choosing to trust a man's hand. And that is the only way healing ever really happens.